Okay, I just got like a few questions. So the first thing I want to ask you is, I guess, being an like international student, how would you describe, like the learning process of growing as a teammate and a player in this environment? Like, was there a language barrier or like sharing some customs with your teammates and stuff? Like, what do you think?
Um, I wouldn't necessarily say like a language barrier, but just more getting used to like I don't know, getting used to the language. And I felt like I was pretty good with like the basketball terms, but there was also some new stuff that I hadn't heard of before. But it came to me quickly, I feel. So it was pretty easy, I would say.
And you're on a team with, some other international players. So, like, do you think that maybe there is like a special connection per se with maybe you guys, like the three of you all together, in any way?
Um, yeah, definitely, because we didn't like go through the whole American process thing. The high school AAU team, like we didn't even know what that was before coming here. So I think Spain and Iceland have kind of similar like school systems. So yeah, we definitely relate on that, and just also um like the things that we had to do like when coming here. Get the phone number, set up the bank account, all of that kind of stuff. That yeah, since I've been here before, like I helped them when they came here. So yeah, for sure.
And so, what would you deem to be probably your biggest struggle or concern, like when you first started playing uh, basketball here at Ball State, and ever since then, like, have you been able to overcome it?
Um, I think definitely I'm a pretty quiet person, and when I got here, I really didn't talk a whole lot. But I've definitely gotten more comfortable with it. Trying to be a leader on the team as I've gotten older and kind of know what the coaching staff wants, and just like delaying that to the team. I think that's come a long way for me since my freshman year.
And as a student, like, off the court, what skills would you say you've been able to apply to your work or your lifestyle, like being here, in the US? And I guess to add on to that, like, how much encouragement would you give uh, for new, like, international student athletes, like being embraced at Ball State?
Well, I've definitely loved being here, whether it's basketball or school. It's definitely a struggle to begin with, the school stuff, even though like I said, English hasn't necessarily been a problem for me. Like we learn it from a pretty young age back home. But yeah, like I said, it took some time to get used to, but it's definitely something that I'd recommend to anyone, especially international players, to just like expand their game. And like it definitely makes you a lot better and a lot tougher being like this far away from home. And yeah.
And in the past, I was kind of reviewing. So, I guess the Ball State women's basketball team, they made some trips, such as places like the Bahamas per se. And I realize like, this season's kind of coming to an end and stuff like that. But I guess what would you say, if your team or teammates like in the future were presented maybe another opportunity like that again, where they could like, get more of like a traveling experience?
um Well, I've thought about this before, and I don't know if Iceland would necessarily be a good spot, just because of the weather. It's kind of far to travel, and I don't know what we exactly do there basketball wise. But I think definitely somewhere in Europe, because a lot of the girls haven't necessarily traveled that much out of the country, and I think that it would be a good experience. Just see different cultures and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I was also like looking through some of the numbers. So I guess a report from, roughly I don't know when the report was from, but basically ever since 2014 up until at least 2019, it's shown that like the student body has decreased a little bit in international students. So I guess my question for you is, um, how much more like unique do you think that might make, you or, the other international students to be in an environment and have an opportunity like this to, learn from them both on and off the court?
Um, I think it's definitely a great opportunity, and yeah, for sure unique since there's I guess not that many people here. Like I don't know anyone from Iceland who's here, and that's always when I talk to people and they're like, "Oh, where you from?" Because they can hear like a little bit of my accent, and I say Iceland, they're like, "Oh," like it surprises them, and they like want to know more about it. So yeah, it can definitely like you can I guess educate people on where you're from, and yeah, it's definitely a unique experience.
And I guess the last thing I'll ask, obviously, maybe an international trip like to Europe or Iceland, like we were talking about, like maybe that wouldn't happen, but I guess let's just say like you guys are in the MAC, uh, and you guys generally play teams like Ohio or Central Michigan like multiple times. So I guess like
Mhm.
what would you say maybe just from like a playing standpoint, like are the pros and cons of playing teams consistently, like, in your own conference, and then those teams that you play out of conference, maybe like once, and might be like once in a, you know, one time that you get to do it annually.
Yeah. Um, well, our conference is definitely very competitive. I feel like everyone can beat anybody. And so, yeah, I think it's definitely a really good conference to be in. And you have to bring your A game every single day. For the non-conference games, I think that's definitely like good preparation for the conference games, and I think that's how they set it up. Like try and find teams that are similar in styles to the teams that we play in conference. But yeah, it's definitely fun to play against I guess bigger schools when that opportunity presents itself. And just compare yourself to those teams and see where you stand.
Yeah. And I mean that's kind of all the questions I had. I don't know. Do you have any like questions for me or anything like that? Or
Um, I don't really think so. Not that I had really thought about.
okay. Well, I'm glad we finally got through this. I'm sure like the connection like with me, you, and like Paula and that stuff was probably like a bear.
Yeah, she was trying to text me this morning after practice, but yeah, no, it's good. It worked out.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, I think if that's it, like, I won't take too much of your time. And
All
I'll let
right,
you go.
all right.
All right. Thank you. Okay. So the first question is, um, I guess being that you are from Ontario, how would you describe like the learning process of growing as a teammate and a player in this environment? Like, have there been some customs that you've shared with the team, other customs that you've had to learn? Like, what would you say?
I think everything that I've experienced here has been pretty much the same as back home, in terms of customs and such. I think the biggest thing that I think is really funny amongst the team is just the language, and the way that me and some of my other Canadian teammates pronounce some of our words compared to how all my American teammates obviously pronounce them. I think that's just really funny. But other than that, there's no huge customary differences amongst us. I've definitely learned a lot though in terms of the competitive aspect of it. I think sports in the United States is very different than sports back home. Even thinking about it in terms of high school sports, I was the only girl on my golf team in high school. We played in one tournament and we practiced maybe one time, whereas obviously down here, there's five, six, seven girls on the golf team. They practice every night and they play in states and they play in many different competitions. So I think that was might have been the biggest change is just how competitive the environment is down here, not only with golf, with every sport. You really are playing with the best people from each state and at each school. Which obviously I think it's amazing. It's a great experience, but it is very different than back home.
Yeah. And you even mentioned like how, you have like certain language similarities with some of your other teammates, and obviously some of those being from Canada as well. Do you think that maybe there's any other special connections that you guys have that maybe is just exclusive to only you guys as opposed to like the rest of the team?
Um, Yes, I think there are some. I don't know if they're really major. They're kind of just small references that I make, especially with my other teammate Peyton Bennett. She's from Ontario as well. We're only about 4 hours from each other. And so when we talk about like hockey, for example, obviously that's a huge sport in Canada, so we bond with that. Even when you think about like winter and snow, like obviously we just got a huge snowstorm last week, and for us, we were like, oh, this is nothing. And like back at home, like this is a good day experiencing this. And then obviously I have teammates from Florida that are like, this is horrendous. I don't like it. I don't know how to drive in it. And so again, I just think it's really funny. It's nothing too serious, and it's like you make a good joke out of it, how similar the United States and Canada are, but how different they are at the same time.
Right, right. And what would you deem to be your biggest struggle or concern when you first started playing golf here at Ball State, and have you been able to overcome it since then?
Yeah, I think the biggest struggle, like I mentioned, is how competitive the environment is. I find myself to be very competitive, but obviously it was different for me. Uh, like being from Canada, again, being the only girl on my golf team at home, like I didn't get to experience the type of competition that these girls did. And so I think my biggest struggle is just facing that and accepting that I am good enough to be here and I'm here for a reason, and using that to get myself to be better. Um, Again, like I mentioned, everybody on this team is the best from each high school they went to, each state they live in, and that's the reason why they're here. And I think it was just very important for me to accept that as well, just to allow myself to really strive in the environment that I'm in and learn not only from my coaches, but also from my teammates who have experienced it as well.
And being a student athlete, talking more so off the court, what skills have you been able to apply to your work or your lifestyle from, being here in the United States at Ball State, and how much encouragement would you give to new incoming international student athletes to be embraced at Ball State as well?
Um, I think that I would really encourage other student athletes to really just like put their name out there, and to step up. And communication is really huge, especially like being a student athlete. You have to work with so many different people with so many different personalities. I think it's really important to communicate with everybody. So I think that's really huge. And one thing that I bring into my work is just leadership. I think that's a big thing that I've learned over the past 4 years as well, is how important it is to have a leader on the team. Whether that be me or one of my other teammates that I'm helping with it. I think it's just really important to have that leadership. But I also think another thing is accountability. I think it's really huge on this team as well. And holding everybody to a high standard is really important. And I think I do that both on the course and off the course, whether it be with academics or work back home, whatever it may be. It's very important to be accountable. But yeah, I think it's really important for anybody who's interested in playing college golf or any type of sport at a higher level. It's really important to just get your name out there, and if you really want to do it, you need to do it, and start as soon as possible. What's the point in waiting?
Yeah, and I understand, like, for you, with this next one, being that you are a senior, it's probably not entirely likely to happen, but, hypothetically speaking, what would you say if, your teammates here at Ball State were presented an opportunity to play in an international golf setting of some kind?
Mhm. I definitely would advise that. I think it's been a great opportunity. Just being able to explore the places that I probably would never have explored before, and being able to play at golf courses that I didn't even know existed. I definitely would encourage everybody to go internationally just to learn how. I mean, like I mentioned, Canada and the United States aren't that different, but they are still different in their own senses. So just to be able to experience life outside of your home is amazing. I mean, I probably have been to 12, 13, or 14 states now that, again, I would have never thought to even go to, which has been amazing. It's a great experience for sure.
And I was researching a little bit on the statistics at Ball State, and a 5-year study from about 2014 to 2019 showed that some of the international students within the student body have been going down. But with that being the case, how much more unique do you feel that makes, people like you and, your other teammates from Canada, uh, to be in this environment and to have an opportunity to learn like this both on and off uh the field.
Yeah, I think it is very unique, and it's obviously very upsetting to hear that the numbers are going down, but hopefully that'll change relatively soon. But um, I do think it gives us a little bit of something unique about us. It's kind of like my claim to fame around here that I'm an international student, because obviously if people don't know, they're only going to assume you're from some state that's somewhere near here. Um, and again, I think that relates back to how there aren't that many customary differences amongst the two countries, and so nobody would really know that I'm not from here unless I told them. Um, but I definitely think that it is a very unique thing about us, and it allows us to spread our experiences from Canada to different people who wouldn't really know that much about it. I've encountered a lot of Americans, either my teammates or my friends, who don't know that much about Canada. They don't know the different types of currency. They don't know the geography about it. Um, and so I like to share that information. I think it's really important that they understand how it works over there. And hopefully when they come and visit me sometime, they can see a grasp of how it actually works.
Yeah, and just I guess one final question to close out. Your head coach, and I might be saying this wrong, but Coach Mowat,
Moet, yeah.
Mowat, Coach Mowat. Okay. Uh, just like yourself, I don't know if you actually know, but she kind of started in Ontario.
Mhm.
So just to wrap it up, tell me if there's anything special about that feeling learning from someone who came from kind of the same roots as you.
Yeah, I think that was the main things for me when I decided to come to Ball State, um, because she knew what it was like. She went to University of the United States as well. She's only about 4 hours from me, from where I live to where she lives in Ontario. So I think there is a little bit of a special bond there because she knows what it's like to be an international student. She knows what it's like to miss holidays back home with family. She knows um, everything about the whole experience. So I think that really helped me be able to fully commit to Ball State because I knew that we had that same thing in common and we were on the same playing field a little bit. So for me, it was really important, and I'm really happy that I went through with it.
Well, I mean, it's definitely seems like you've enjoyed it so far.
Yeah.
But not, I mean, thanks again for taking the time to speak to me. I appreciate it. I don't know if you have anything like you wanted to ask me.
No, I don't have any questions, but thank you so much for the time as well.
All right. And I think that's kind of all I need. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks, you too.